So maybe if we want to start over here with Susanna, and then we can work our way around the table this way.
Susana Villagomez.
Matthew Rathbun.
Patrick Cervera.
Siobhan McKinney.
Haley Glass, present.
Levi Chi, present.
Irvi, present.
Germani, present.
Victor Delgado, present.
Sky Childress, present.
Perfect. And then just to clarify, I think we will just go ahead and have the delegates be part of attendance also, because we do have to track y'all and make sure you have attendance at least once a month. So just so you guys know, you will also be a part of that attendance. Cool. Would anybody like to do the reading of the mission statement? Go for it, Irvi.
To support the evolving needs of the MSU Denver students by advocating in their best interest to enhance the university experience and opportunities.
Perfect. And then everybody has an agenda in front of them, correct? Any questions, comments, concerns with the agenda today? Perfect. I'm going to go ahead and motion to approve today's agenda.
Seconded.
Any objections? Any abstentions? Perfect. Moving it over to, we're only about a minute in, but public comment will be from the 11:35 to 11:50 mark. Do we have anybody in here at this time for public comment? Anybody online for public comment? Perfect. We'll go ahead and pause if we do have anybody come in between that time slot, especially since we're a little bit early to the public comment period. But I think for now we can just go ahead and move over into our new business. So I know that this resolution is coming from both Siobhan and Sky. So I don't know, Siobhan, if you want to yield your time to Sky to share this resolution, or if you would share it.
I yield my time to I yield my time to Sky.
Perfect.
Hi. Okay, I'm gonna read through it. Okay. CR 2519, resolution to endorse the Kelly Loving Act, aka House Bill 251312, authored by Sky Childress, Siobhan McKinney, sponsored by Bread and Roses Legal Center and the American Civil Liberties Union of Colorado, endorsed by William Coates. Abstract. Student Government, the Student Advocacy Council, SGTSAC, Metropolitan State University of Denver, charged with supporting the evolving needs of the MSU Denver students, recognizes that trans people are actively being attacked by the federal government on multiple fronts. In the wake of this rampage against trans people, there are things that institutions can do for them. One such example is individual states passing legislation like the Kelly Loving Act to protect trans people within the state. We as student advocates will publicly endorse HB 251312, which provides protections for transgender people of Colorado. Whereas the Kelly Loving Act, also known as House Bill 251312, is a piece of legislation being proposed in the 2025 Colorado legislative session. Whereas the bill is named after Kelly Loving, a trans woman, fierce advocate for transgender people, and a victim of the Club Q shooting in Colorado Springs a little over 2 years ago. Whereas House Bill 251312 provides the following protections for transgender people, defines dead naming, misgendering, and chosen name for the purposes of CADA, allows Colorado courts, in addition to many other factors, to consider whether a parent affirms their child's chosen gender identity as a factor when determining the best interests of a child in family law contexts, defines dead naming and misgendering as a form of coercive control, a defined form of abuse that is used in family law contexts, requires that school policies regarding name changes to be inclusive of all reasons a person might change their name, for example, preference, new last name due to marriage, nicknames, etc., forbids the removal of children from their parent or guardian because the parent helps them seek gender-affirming care in Colorado, disallows dress code policies based on gender and allows any student to abide by any variation of a dress code, defines that publishing materials such as newsletters, announcements, or yearbooks that intentionally dead name or misgender someone is a discriminatory practice. Whereas Metropolitan State University of Whereas the Metropolitan State University of Denver's student body is made of a diverse collection of humans, and among these students are transgender and gender nonconforming students, including trans and gender nonconforming parents that are students. Whereas, based on the SGTSAC Constitution, there is no prohibition against endorsing state legislation like House Bill 251312. However, it is important to consider the neutrality clause in Article 3, Section 2, as this topic is viewed as politically charged by some. Neutrality clause, Article 3, Section 2. Counselors are expected to maintain a neutral view as an elected counselor and not represent the council's views on polarizing issues. Explanation of clause. This clause refers to individual counselors purporting their own political beliefs to be the Student Advocacy Council's stance. This provision does not restrict or concern the full council's voice. However, the existence of transgender people and whether transgender people should have equal protections against discrimination is a topic of public debate, and counselors should consider if this resolution promotes student well-being and improves the student experience on campus. Article 3, Section 1. Whereas, for the purpose of this resolution to endorse this bill, SU-TSAC would allow representative of the council to read the attached statement, Exhibit A, before any congressional hearings, following comments from the public, allowing comments from the public. Additionally, the PR committee within SU-TSAC may decide to issue a statement of support for the bill if it deems it appropriate. Whereas, if this resolution is passed, members of SU-TSAC are allowed to mention and discuss that the council has endorsed House Bill 251312 and or quote sections of this resolution or Exhibit A as statements of SU-TSAC. Whereas endorsing this bill does not indicate that members need to lobby for the bill, that is a personal decision. This resolution only calls for one member to do so voluntarily. The purpose of endorsing this bill is twofold. One, to encourage our elected representatives to vote yes on this bill, thereby ensuring this bill does become law and positively impact the student body that we serve. Two, to publicly act to protect our trans students, an action that allows us to be a metaphorical beacon of light in the uncertain times we find ourselves. Therefore, be it resolved, SU-TSAC will endorse the Kelly Loving Act. And then I'll also read the attached Exhibit A too, just so everyone knows what it says. Exhibit A, comments to be given in congressional hearings. After an appropriate greeting and introduction, we send an unwavering support of House Bill 251312, the Kelly Loving Act. This critical legislation demands equity, dignity, and safety for transgender and gender nonconforming individuals in Colorado, including the many students we represent who rely on being protected to thrive in their education and live happy lives. The Kelly Loving Act honors the legacy of Kelly Loving, a transgender woman and advocate whose life was tragically cut short in the Club Q shooting. Her memory calls us to action, demanding that we confront the systemic discrimination and violence all too familiar to transgender people. This bill provides essential safeguards, such as protecting youth and families by prohibiting the removal of children from homes simply for accessing gender-affirming care and recognizing dead naming and misgendering as coercive control in custody cases, ensuring inclusive educational environments by requiring schools to respect chosen names and adopt gender-neutral dress codes, combating discrimination by explicitly defining dead naming and misgendering as discriminatory practices. For our trans students, this bill is a lifeline. It ensures that they can't be dead named in courtrooms, classrooms, or places of employment, and protects parents who support their children's health care. These are not abstract rights, they are survival. Our university community is home to a vibrant collection of identities, and transgender students are an integral part of that community. When their rights are undermined, their ability to learn, work, and participate fully in campus life is compromised. This bill is a small step towards an equitable future for trans people. We urge you to pass the Kelly Loving Act, not just as a stand against transphobia, but as a declaration that Colorado will resist the federal government's campaign to strip rights from marginalized people. Our students are watching, history is watching, and an appropriate salutation.
Perfect. Any questions, comments, concerns on this resolution? Levi? Oh, sorry.
So the kind of question I had for this endorsement is that what would be the kind of relevance, I suppose, when it comes to SU-TSAP? Because we do already have a lot of implementations in our infrastructure for MSU for, discriminatory practices, student complaint process, and a couple other things for us, for maybe a student who is trans who maybe feels like that they're being discriminated against, and they face other issues. So we already have an infrastructure in place for it. I'm just questioning for supporting this bill and everything. What is the relevance to us? Because it seems like it's outside of kind of our scope and our purview.
I yield my time to Sky.
I think it's important to consider that our students are not just students of this campus, and they also live lives outside of a campus. And so even if our policies here were perfect and did not falter whatsoever on this topic, our students still have employment outside of here. Some of our students that are trans do have children. I know trans parents that go to MSU Denver, and they may end up in a custody battle one day, and this would affect them. I think this is advocacy on behalf of those students and the complexity of their lives, and also acknowledging the fact that that complexity affects their education and their ability to learn here.
I also had a second question. For the legal representatives who were proposing this bill, I kind of have to maintain that I don't feel comfortable attach my name without knowing the type of representation that they are, because politics is politics. Even though they might be working for one bill that might, be good or whatever, we don't know other bills that they're done or worked with in the past that could possibly be contentious and be something that if we attach our name to could violate the neutrality clause as well.
I'll yield.
I want to be clear that this is not TSAC endorsing everything that Lorena Garcia, one of our representatives, does in Congress. This is endorsing this bill specifically. It's also not endorsing everything that Bread and Roses Legal Center, one of the partners that helped write this bill, does. It only is endorsing this specific bill. I don't think that anyone could contort that to mean the opposite. And if they did, they would be misconstruing information. It would not be us violating our neutrality clause.
That's all I have.
Have you talked to Tyrell, the director of Student Resource Center, about this bill? I just like her point of view and things like this regards to especially this. So I just wanted to see if maybe you had contact with her, see what she would say about this bill, or they would say about.
I yield my time.
I have not spoken to Tyrell. I also have not spoken to Geeta. The reason being is this piece of legislation was introduced into the House on Friday. I spoke on it during a 13-hour set of comments on Tuesday, and our schedules just did not align to have a meeting with either of those people at MSU Denver. I have spoken to multiple trans students. Multiple trans students from MSU Denver were there testifying for this bill in favor of it, as well as other students from other institutions here on the Rary campus. But I have not had the time to stakehold with those people, given the expedited nature of this bill. Just to give another clarification as to the reason the timeline is so expedited, all bills must be voted on and completed by May 7th. Otherwise, they do not happen this year, and you have to wait till next year to reintroduce them. And this is being heard in about 3 hours on the House floor, and then we'll move to the Senate sometime next week or the week after. So it's important that if TSAC does want to endorse this bill, that it happens today, so that if there's a hearing Tuesday, someone could speak on this if this is what TSAC wants.
Levi.
So this is kind of a fast pace for this bill for TSAC to support, but usually whenever we support things like this, we really need the leadership and understanding from people who have this kind of understanding of this lifestyle and the kind of troubles that they face. And I would be vastly more comfortable with someone who is kind of the subject matter and like part of MSU to kind of like be the person who like understands this and like looks over it and kind of like someone without I don't have experience in, someone who can speak for us as MSU and as the institution. So the director, the LGBT center, and like other entities like them, and not being, seeing this type of support or whatever, don't you think would be better to either? I know it's something that's like expedited or coming soon, as you said, but wouldn't it be better to have their input on it rather than like immediately attach our name to it without really seeing and understanding the qualifications and aspects of it? I yield my time.
Okay, I'd love to answer that. Yes, I do want to really quickly just correct a small piece of your language. Being transgender, being queer is not a lifestyle. That's an often piece of rhetoric that people push. It's just a fact of who you are. But I also want to respond to the idea that this has not been considered by MSU Denver students who are directly involved. I'm a trans person who is an MSU Denver student and who had a very abusive parents in my childhood. I would very much so benefit having their custody removed from me. Also, as a trans student in MSU Denver who has in the previous attempted to commit suicide, with at least one factor being my lack of ability to access gender affirming care as a child. So I think that I have unique experience to bring to the table issue on this. I think that every single counselor in this room represents me as a student of MSU Denver, and I have also spoken to other people who go to MSU Denver. I think it's been stakeholdered well directly with the student body, given that there were 4 different MSU Denver students testifying on this bill Tuesday. It's in the public record. You can look it up. I don't think that you should tell any marginalized group that they can only speak by and through organizations meant to speak for them, like the LGBTQ Resource Center and GITA. I think that individually they can also speak, and I think that it's a responsibility of counselors on this council to consider their thoughts and not only the people that represent them.
Levi's stance. It isn't necessarily the MSU that us as a student council, we aren't, a representative of the student body. Rather, much more the collaborative effort between our university and the student body that represents a lot of all factors of upper administration and the groups that we have. Yeah. I think that's the one that Levi's trying to say. It's more of a collaborative effort between the whole university as a representation, not just student body, but as a university as a whole. I think that's what his point of view perspective was. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, Levi. My other question was just if you could explain the expedition. I didn't quite understand it. If you could just enlighten me, please.
Really quickly, is that correct? Is that were they correct on the point? Oh, there.
Could you restate it?
So sorry.
Yeah, so rather than just because it seems to me like the dispute was between the council and the student body's voice, and that our word wouldn't exactly represent the student body voice, but necessarily that wasn't the argument. I like the perspective. It was that to have a collaborative effort between all of MS University rather than just the student body as a whole.
Yeah.
Okay. Really quickly, I want to respond to that, and then I'll get to that. Well, someone yield their time to. Beautiful. I do want to respond to that part first. I think that TSAC represents the students in this university. They don't represent the administration. They don't represent faculty. They don't represent staff. I think it's important to consider the entire environment because it all affects students. But our mission is to represent the evolving needs of students, not faculty, admin, or the university. It's the students of the university, which all of that intersects. But I think that if TSAC feels that our student body benefits from the passing of this bill, that we should act. And if acting is urgent, then we should do it quickly. And then I do want to respond to the urgency question. So quick timeline, this was introduced Friday into the House. It was voted on in the Judicial Committee in the House on Tuesday. It passed. It moves to the full House this afternoon, about 2 p.m. I will hopefully be there. And they will debate it for 2-3 hours. There'll be lots of things said, and then hopefully it will pass. We expect it to. After that, the very last chance for the public to comment on it will be in Senate Judicial Committee here. And then it moves to the full Senate. Both of those things will happen likely sometime next week or the week after. With the Senate committee hearings being on Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday, it could happen as early as Tuesday or Wednesday or even Monday before our next meeting. That's the reason that if we want to endorse this bill, it would need to be then. Because if we endorsed it after that Senate committee hearing, we'd be endorsing it with no chance for public comment left, no chance for those representatives to hear. It does not get added to the record that we endorse it. It's just somewhere in our public record completely separate from that. And so after that point, we would lose the ability to speak directly to those representatives representing the student voice of MSU Denver.
So for my
Follow up,
Oh.
and then I'm going to move over to Susanna,
No
so you can go
worries.
quick
Yes.
with the follow up.
So yeah, from my understanding, it seems I think that's what in the bottom the way you said it would be to the PR team's discretion to promote this, because with the more promotion, the more ability that the public comment can be open for more individuals, especially here within the university. So is this in order to endorse it, or is this to promote the ability to support this?
So this resolution has two reasons. Is the purpose of endorsing this bill is twofold. It's to encourage elected representatives to vote yes, and also to publicly act to support our trans students. That's the very last whereas in this. But The reason for endorsing is we are saying we want this legislation to pass. We're saying, as the voice of the MSU Denver student body, we want this legislation to pass. The reason I added the section where if PR finds it necessary to also publish that we have endorsed this is on timeline. If this goes before the House at 9 a.m., I mean, not the House, if this is signed on next Friday before our meeting, there's no reason for us to publish that we endorse, we might want to publish a different kind of statement. And I don't want to lock PR committee into what they need to do. Instead, I would rather leave it open-ended because this is rapidly developing. The reason for having a pre-written statement as words from SU TSAC to then go read on the House floor is so that someone can go to this Senate hearing. They can sit before these Senate judiciary representatives, and they can read that statement that ties this issue directly to our student body. It doesn't necessarily touch some of the things in the bill because some of the things in the bill don't necessarily, they're more geared toward early education. But we are saying that the entirety of the bill does support our students.
It sounded like Susanna withdrew her question, so I'm gonna pass it over to Levi.
So, kind of two things. So with my understanding that you feel that you, with your experiences and all of the trepidation that you faced, that you were qualified to speak on behalf of all MSU and people who are involved with the LGBT Center and all the infrastructure we have for people who are like trans and other stuff like that that's adjacent to it. You feel that you're fully qualified to speak on behalf of all of them? I yield my time.
I want to also, I want to clarify. I do not feel fully qualified to speak on any entire group of people. I think that is just counter to anything, even if I am a member of that class myself. I feel that in my experience as a trans person, and in my experience as being a part of the trans community, and being a part of the trans MSU Denver student community, that community does affirm that this bill is necessary to pass. And that me as one of the student delegates on TSAC, my role is quite literally just to bring new perspectives to the council, to bring more diverse perspectives from different areas that may have not already been covered by the council. And I feel that I'm uniquely on this council qualified to speak on these issues. And I would ask that instead of just questioning my qualification on it, if there's like more parts of the resolution or parts of this bill that you would have questions with that I could then answer and tell you my experiences there. I don't feel that questioning whether or not TSAC can or should do this. Let me rephrase that. Questioning whether or not TSAC should be doing this because it's not representing the full university, or questioning whether or not TSAC should be doing this because it's not representing the LGBT Resource Center, I feel is counterproductive. I feel like we represent the students directly and that we can consult with all of those different pieces of this moving puzzle to better do that. But if we're getting direct input from students, I think that matters more.
Passing it over to Vic.
Yeah. So the bullet points that I put in here explain it as best as I possibly can. The bill is public. It's just House Bill 251312. You can Google it. I can send you a link if you'd like me to. I don't know that there will be time before we vote today to read over it. Okay. I would absolutely love to send it to you though. Yeah, and a past version, hopefully in the next few weeks.
And then passing it over to Patrick.
Well, for me, in the sense of maybe in Levi's sense, and this is how I feel a bit too. Isn't necessarily that we don't speak for the student body. I mean, you're absolutely right that is what we're here for. That's why we signed up to be counselors, just to, if the administration doesn't speak on our behalf, we will. Absolutely. However, I feel like it would show like a much more united front, a much more supportive and strong front. If we have like much more, if we show out MSU, look at how we're supporting our students. through our own resources center, through our own organizations that we have within our university. And the fact that we have students like yourself that stand up to these such things, that are willing to speak on behalf for all of your community, then would it be okay if we could do something in addition to this? Maybe reaching out to LGBTQ Center as this process proceeds, because you said we have Monday and Tuesdays, which are going to be the hearings, if I'm right.
I yield.
We don't necessarily know exactly. Senate Judiciary Committee hearings are held Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. The Senate Majority Leader can add it to any day they want to if it passes today.
Right.
So it could be next Monday. But that's a lower chance. I feel like it's Monday, Wednesday, or Tuesday. But yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
All
right.
Or
Well,
Levi and then
yeah.
Rosanna?
Yeah, that's
Or were
just-
you done?
Yeah. Just let me wrap it up. I'll wrap it up for you. Don't worry. Yeah. That was. I think that's just my perspective. That's not necessarily that. I'm not questioning anything else, because I do support the fact that, for me myself, being in a minority community, I think you said it yourself. You, of course you don't speak for everybody, but you have a general sense of how the community feels, of what is directly impacting you at this moment, because it doesn't impact you, but it impacts your friends, everyone a part that. So I just wanted to address that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I would love to see advocacy on all fronts for all of our marginalized communities in multiple different pieces of legislation. I don't want to see just one statement of support. Here's our resources, though that is useful and that is one thing we should do, in my opinion. I'm actively working on changing our name change procedures here at MSU Denver. That would be one piece of advocacy for the trans community. I also think that there is more advocacy to be done and more resources to be shared on all fronts, especially as the federal situation develops, as this state situation develops. And I think collaboration with GITA, collaboration with the LGBT Resource Center is absolutely would be amazing on that topic. I've also started the conversation over at CU student government and at CCD student government to endorse this bill, hopefully within the next couple of days. In addition to collaborating on future projects, they're working on a statement of support for transgender students, and I think we should collaborate with them on that. I do not think this is where it ends. I don't think that any single action of us supporting our community is ever the final part of supporting that community. I'll never ask my question, have we supported this community too much? I think that an unlimited amount of support is what we should be doing within our capacity.
So the last thing I have, and kind of explanation of why I was hesitant about this, is because some of you know, I'm Dene Navajo. I'm Native American, and kind of an issue that Indigenous people have faced in the past is that there have been a lot of groups who have been sympathetic to our cause, and not to compare groups, but kind of the issue we've always had is that many people sympathetic to us and maybe the trials and tribulations that we face have tried to advocate for us on our behalf, but without giving us the respect of consulting us or talking to us before. And in that form, with a lot of issues with that, I don't feel comfortable with us pursuing a resolution or something like this without fully informing and talking to a lot of the local groups. Because I'm part of ASA as well, tri-institutional indigenous group. And a lot of times we try to work together and collaborate with a lot of people on the institution for both three institutions. And I feel that a lot of times it's like best to work together when it comes to that, especially with us trying to be a united group against, the current political climate and all the issues we're facing in the current, federal landscape. But yeah, that's my explanation for it, and that's all I have to say.
I'll yield for a brief response, and then I want to move over to Susanna.
I do have to agree with.
Oh, sorry.
I
Let
could
me go
give
to
my time
Susanna
to.
first, and then I'll. Sorry.
I have to agree with Levi too, because there are groups that do want to be supported and do want to collaborate, but without the whole sense of the whole campus. And if it's just only 4 people that we have talked to, I don't feel comfortable pursuing a resolution to this that we don't have X, Y, and Z. And I would feel much better. And if a student is struggling outside of school, I believe there are still resources in campus and academically, anything else like the CAL Center, the LGBTQ Center, GITA, for example. And working with them will be more likely to, in my point of view, be better than pushing a resolution that we say yes to it and then what's the next step after that?
I yield.
I absolutely agree that when you're advocating for especially a marginalized group, that you want to reach out to the groups that also are in that fight with you. I absolutely agree with that. And I acknowledge your experience in that matter. I do feel that multiple groups have been in this conversation that are already in this fight doing this work. One of those groups wrote the bill. I also think that as we continue to do more work on this issue, we will continue to collaborate with those individuals and with those groups. I know that on some of the other legislation that I'm working on to pass through here, I've already been collaborating with Gita and with LGBT Resource Center, Ms. Tyrell, on them, and will continue to do so. And I imagine as we continue to do more things, we'll continue to do that. I don't feel that should stop the passing of this resolution today, because this resolution doesn't just say we're supporting our transgender students. It says we are supporting this bill that does support our transgender students. And I think that the urgency of it is slightly outweighs the fact that we did not have time to consult everyone on this. Another thing I want to say is that the number one opposition that you're hearing from the other side of the aisle, the Republicans in the House on this, is that there has not been enough stakeholdering done. And what they have said, there's not been enough stakeholdering done. They've said you haven't consulted anti-trans groups, you haven't consulted Christian parent groups, you haven't consulted hate groups in regards to making this bill. I'm not saying that's what you guys are saying. You're absolutely not saying that. You're saying quite the opposite. But I do want to point out that this bill has been stakeholdered. Over 100 trans people testified on it Tuesday, all the way until almost 2 a.m. in the morning. And many MSU Denver students were there as well. I don't want to just keep repeating that because I hear your concerns that are valid. We have not consulted LGBT Resource Center. There hasn't been enough time for it. We have not consulted Gita. I've sent an email, haven't got a response on it. He's a very busy person. But I do want to make clear that we did not exclude them from the conversation. It's just that there was not enough time with this expedited schedule to make that happen. And we will continue to collaborate in the future. I don't feel that this is a punch in the face to them that we didn't. I also don't feel that the trans students of MSU Denver would feel that we did not stakehold with them enough before doing this. I feel that they would feel that we stakeholdered plenty, that we listened to them and we did not fall victim to an analog of white saviorism. I don't feel like that's what this is.
So part of our deal as TSAC, the Student Advocacy Council, is advocating for students and hearing their voices to kind of go forward without giving them the respect of learning how they feel about something. If you couldn't have a 99.9% feeling that they agree with it, it still pays for that 1% that feels the different way. And then also, if we say, for example, we say no, if they endorse this bill and present it to the House and they go through the process and maybe they don't accept it, is that the end all be all for any other bills such as this?
Can you repeat that last bit?
So if they do, say they present this House bill and it gets denied, would that be the only instance that they ever present a bill like this? They can never try again or present something similar? You have my time.
So there are advocacy groups that are working towards legislation that is positive for trans people. One of those advocacy groups is Bread and Roses Legal Center. They've been working on that for 2 years. Last year, they ran Tiara's Law, which is named for a trans woman from Colorado Springs, who was a previously convicted felon, had served her sentence, got out, and wanted to change her name, and she wasn't legally allowed to. That law allowed her to do just that. I think that as more legislation gets presented, if this legislation were not to pass and it doesn't become law, there would be fierce fights to make this become law at some point. There's also an active fierce fight going on in Denver City Council to make Denver a sanctuary city for trans people, but that has been stalled until after the Colorado legislation ends in May. The legislative session ends in May. So there's active fights going on all different angles for this. If the bill dies in the House or in the Senate or the governor vetoes it, there will be uproar from the people that supported it. This was a piece of legislation that was supported by 5 different representatives in Congress, and they would absolutely craft more legislation next year. I don't feel this would be an end all be all. Also, this legislation started out with more advocacy efforts in it. It started out with $14 million of additional spending to spend for gender affirming care. That had to be taken out because of the budget this year, and that's something that sucked to have to happen. But taking it out gives it a higher chance of being passed. People on both sides of the aisle have been tweeting and been saying things, saying basically it's guaranteed to pass. Now it doesn't have to go through appropriations because it's a net zero on the economy. It's very likely to pass, but if it doesn't, it's not an end all be all. There will continue to be advocacy, and I expect we will be involved in that advocacy as representatives of the MSU University body.
So, from what you're saying, is that this House bill is very supportive. It has a lot of a fight for it. There's multiple people and groups fighting for it and finding others like it, as well as ready to submit any other type of legislation just like it in order to keep continuing the fight. But what does TSAC need? Why does TSAC need to put their name onto something that has been introduced into the infrastructure and the groups it's supposed to represent and get their voice on it, and something we haven't fully seen the full information and stuff about it?
So, you said you haven't seen the full information about it. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, the bill itself.
Okay. I did I believe that Siobhan sent this into the chat on Wednesday instead of Thursday. It was actually it might have been Thursday. I don't remember. But it's been a little bit, and I think there's been enough time to at least read the resolution that I wrote, and it explains it quite well. I know you're not a lawyer, so I don't expect you to read a bill and understand exactly what the changes in Colorado revised statutes mean. There is a really small abstract on the first page of the bill that explains what all 9 sections do. And had you read that, you would understand what the bill does. And I think that would help you better understand what it does. I tried to break it down in simpler terms too, in my resolution, and also call out how it affects our students specifically in the resolution. And additionally, I forgot to mention this bill has been stakeholdered for over a year via surveys from Bread and Roses Legal Center. It was originally only open to rural communities because they wanted to get that voice first, because it's super easy to get voices in Denver. So they had 100 different people from rural communities respond that were either trans students or trans parents. And then they had 400 additional from the Denver metro area. I don't know that that's necessarily wholly relevant to stakeholder in our student body. But I do feel that all the previous things that have been said explains how we have stakeholder in our student body on this.
Patrick?
Well, just a quick question, Sky, or for Siobhan as well, since you wrote this resolution. I want to see where it says, whereas for the purpose of this resolution to endorse this bill, SGTSAC would allow representatives of the council to read a attached statement before any congressional hearings, allowing comments from the public. So how would we decide who would be allowed to speak on behalf of the council? Would it be a counselor or anyone from our city advocacy council? Is that what that? If you could clarify that for me, please.
Yeah, my time.
In my intention when writing this was that was not something that we voted on. The person, this would actually lead it up, allow any representative of the council, and representatives of the council would include delegates or counselors. And they're not reading their own words. They're not making statements of their own representing the council. They would be reading a statement, in the attached statement Exhibit A, that would have been approved by a vote if this passes. They would be reading a statement by the council. This could be anyone. It's just a representative of the council. I would suggest that it would be me, because I'm very passionate on this issue and I would like to, but I don't think that needs a vote. I think that's less of a decision, more of we decided that someone should read this statement on that floor who's willing to do the work.
Any other questions in response to Sky? No? Then I'm going to move forward and make a motion to vote on endorsing this bill.
Second.
Do you want to?
Do a roll call. I was gonna say, seems like we're not all in agreement. So since this won't be just a simple no objections, abstentions. I'll yield real quick just for a point of order.
Yeah, Will Coates endorsed this resolution and could not make it today. I don't know if that counts as a proxy vote. I just wanted to make that
I don't
clear.
believe so. Corrective counsel
Okay.
have to be present to vote.
Beautiful.
Thank you for clarifying that, though. I appreciate that. Okay. We'll do this roll call style. So I'll just do it the same way as we do for constitutional amendments. I'm going to read out your name. You just indicate whether you're voting in favor or in opposition of this resolution. Let's see. Michael's not present. William Coates is not present. Patrick Severa.
I abstain.
Levi Chi.
Okay, I oppose.
Siobhan McKinney.
Yes.
Matthew Rathbun.
Yes.
Amelia is not present. Victor Delgado.
Yes.
Susana Villagomez.
I abstain.
And then last is me, and I'm going to vote in favor, but I believe with those abstentions and oppositions, the resolution does not pass with simple majority, especially considering we are missing 3 counselors today. So it does pass. Four yeses. Wait.
Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 yes. 5 yeses. Yeah, see, wait, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. No, math. I did say yes. Oh, yes, sorry.
Mm-mm. No. Point of order for a co-chair that has never had a resolution fail before. So do we do the majority based off of who is present, or is it majority of the council in total? That's what I thought, majority of the council, correct? So if we only have 4 votes, that's not majority of the council because we have 10 counselors, correct? We had 4. Yeah. Uh, 2 abstentions and 1 in opposition. Quorum, we needed
Maybe 6 people for a quorum.
We have 7.
Robert.
We're pulling up the Constitution now. Give us a moment.
My computer just died, but
If you don't attack. I like because it was 4 people. 4 people go extension. So we would have to do it again next Friday.
Oh, yeah.
advisors, my computer just died. Will you just clarify per Robert's rules if it's those present or if it's based on the full council? Full council.
Full council.
Cool. So then the resolution unfortunately does fail at this point. I do want to say that although this resolution did fail, this does not mean that we're in opposition of doing any sort of support work for our trans students. I think we could still do more and do it more collaboratively. I think a lot of the concerns sounded like they were concerned about, us not working collaboratively with the LGBTQ Center, especially since we've had some contentions with them already earlier in this semester. I think it's really important that we do work with them on some work going forward, working with Gita, making sure that we're being holistic in our work, I suppose is the good way of saying it. I do think that we should consider what you were talking about earlier, Sky, with working collaboratively with CU Denver with their statement that they're working on in support of trans students. And I think the name change policy as well is something else that we can definitely support. So just as we're moving forward on this, I want to make sure that we are ensuring that we're still advocating for our trans students and that it doesn't just end here. I'm going to yield my time to Sky real quick to address this, and then I'll move on to you, Patrick.
I want to thank the council. I also want to further clarify, Robert's rules says a majority vote is more than half of votes cast by those present and voting. That would not only disallow those not present, but disallow those abstaining. So that would be a 4-to-1 vote and a pass. Because we did have quorum present today, that still would be a 4-to-1 vote with a pass. Per our constitution, resolutions are passed by majority vote according to Robert's rules. I would ask that someone find the Robert's Rule statute that disproves that.
The council doesn't formally abide by formal Robert's rules, then that's something that has been labeled in the Constitution. We just looked up,
Okay.
said, we just had it. 2 seconds, sorry. But I believe in efforts, the Constitution does say that it's the simple
Okay.
majority,
So
simple majority of the council. We can get that, yeah.
I would also like clarification, so no worries. We can just give it a second.
Article 2, Section 2, subsection 2? Yeah.
A resolution.
A resolution is a bill that aims to pass policy and only needs a simple majority to pass, whereas an amendment alters the Constitution and requires 2/3 majority. And as the Constitution applies to the entire council, that is the effort that we move forward with.
I'll yield.
So you read you quoted the Constitution, and then you said, as the Constitution abides to the whole council, this specific thing is saying the whole council is majority. That's not what it said. That quote of the Constitution just says simple majority vote. It doesn't specify simple majority vote, including or simple majority of the council. So I want a section of the Constitution that points to it. Otherwise, we loosely follow Robert's rules, and I would want to follow Robert's rules, which would be a 4-to-1 pass.
That we don't follow Robert's rules.
If we don't follow Robert's rules, what does the Constitution say?
We're not going to argue on camera. We could discuss the Constitutional Amendment later if we need to. But
Yeah,
we'll
we can
go
clarify
back to
that
the
later.
yeah.
Historically, we follow Bobby's rules, not Robert's rules, so it's a little bit loose. But per that wording, I'm going to go ahead and say that the resolution fails for now. We can re-explore later and make sure we have that wording clarified in the Constitution. You would think after those many sleepless nights William Coates had, he would have figured that out. But we're going to go ahead and move on for sake of clarity into announcements and updates. I do want to preface that I didn't add this to the agenda because I didn't think of it until we had already started the meeting, but we did have our New Orleans trip last week. So I think during open floor announcements and updates, I would like for people to kind of share what you guys took away from that trip so that we can kind of like share out and learn about that. And we can do it more formally at another time, but we'll go through the normal announcements and updates. And then during open floor announcements and updates, if those of you that went to Tulane kind of want to share a little bit about your experience, I think that would be very fruitful for the council. Okay, so Board of Trustees is not here, so we can skip over to SACAB.
Hello, everyone. So we had a resolution passed today, and it was to support the increased resources for undocumented students, international students, DACA recipients, and the students from mixed status families on the Auraria campus. And for the Tivoli, okay, yes, and so for the Tivoli Reimagine project, so Sophia Tran from the AHAC, she said that we're currently working with the architectural firm to finalize their contract. Then we would resume with meetings for the steering committee. Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Siobhan. If we can move over to Sam for elections updates.
All right, elections updates. We're starting next week. Oh, I sound like a robot. Is it fixed? Okay, I'm gonna switch out with somebody. Look back. Okay. Yeah, so we're starting on April 7th. Testing now. No. All right, we're starting on April 7th at 10 a.m. is when the balloting station is opened. That's going to be in the Multicultural Lounge. We're also having our town hall on Monday from 3 to 5. I've gotten RSVPs from a couple people who are running who are planning to come, but if you are running, make sure to RSVP for that. I sent out a Outlook invite, so you should have it in your email. Yeah, I'm really excited. Mike is going to be on our moderating panel. Should be interesting, but I provided a list of questions for him to follow, so I don't foresee anything super spicy happening there. We're also supposed to have Met TV filming it, which will be really nice. So they're going to upload it as soon as it's done. So we'll have like the whole 2-hour event filmed on the Met TV website. There's also supposed to be a Met TV journalist on the moderation panel. I've been having a hard time getting in contact with them, so we'll see about that. But they should be there to film at least. Besides that, so our ballots are going to run for 2 weeks. I am able to cover them for most of the time, but I'm going to be out of town next Thursday and Friday for my other job. So I put up a when to meet in the Teams if people don't mind filling that out, just so we can try and get as much coverage as possible at the balloting stations. I've also reached out to CU and CCD to help cover because we're all going to be balloting in the same place. So hopefully they can help us all out and run our station if none of us are available. Okay. Bios and platforms. There are a couple people in this room who still need to send me their candidate bio and candidate platform. We need those ASAP. I'm about to say your names, so mentally prepare for this, please. The people here who need to send me their platforms and bios are Sky, Susanna, and Patrick. So please get those into me as soon as you can. We need the platform for the ballot. If we don't have your platform, people won't know why they should vote for you. So good stuff. Yeah, Sai is not here. He also needs to send it in. Yeah, so that's the bios and platforms. I'm making some calendar invites for these dates specifically, but I was not able to reserve the Multicultural Lounge for every day. So we're going to have that table that's like outside across from Starbucks on the 8th, the 9th, the 14th, and the 16th. Again, I'll put that on Teams so everyone has it. But that way we're still able to ballot every day in person. We'll just be in a slightly different location. I think that covers everything on my end. Does anybody have any questions?
Patrick?
Patrick.
Can we get the QR code?
I sent it out in my email last night where I was also asking people for their platforms and bios.
Never mind then.
But yeah, we have the QR code. And yes, as a reminder, I'll grab your question 1 second. This is a competitive race. There's 13 people running, so one person is not going to be elected to the council next year. And then I believe at least one of the positions are going to be competitive still also. We're still 100% verifying that process, but this is like a serious election, folks, so don't slack or you probably will not get elected. Okay, Irvi, you got a question? Oh.
I'm going to yield.
I'm not able to access this link, which has been sent on the Outlook email.
When you open it, does it say like this election has not been started yet on Roadrunner link?
No. It's not the link. I think it's for Teams.
A link for what isn't working?
No. I think you're right. Sorry.
Okay. Yeah, so the ballot, we don't have it published yet. So if you open that link, it'll say this election is not yet available. But once we publish it on Monday, anyone who goes to that link will log into the ballot instead. All right. I think that covers elections. One more peek for questions. Yeah, cool. Thanks, everybody.
Sweet. Moving over to accountability. I know Will isn't here, but Matt, do you have anything for accountability? Cool. Make sure you use your mic.
He's not here.
So the last week after our trip to Tulane, I did a 2-day training with Elise Krumholz in the Dean of Students office on restorative justice practices. And I'm going over all that data so we can build out the policies and procedures for the accountability committee and trying to include it to have preventative measures as well as like if a conflict actually occurs.
Thank you. Anything coming out of budget?
Hey, y'all. Budget committee. I just needed to get, so I'm pretty sure as you guys know, not much has changed in the budget except a lot, except from the from the Tulane trip. I mean, we gotta as soon as I get those receipts, I'm pretty sure maybe y'all can send them in probably by Wednesday. I'll see, look at that. Beautiful. 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 Once we get that, I'll set up a budget meeting so we can look at the stats, look how much we got, see how we can make sure that all this can be resolved. Until further notice, if there's going to be any events, just consult with me or Michael, please, or particularly Mike. If I'm not there, especially Mike. This is just so we can make sure that we're not overspending or trying to see something that maybe we not might be able to afford, or just to take into account for future purchases that we will do from our committees or for even potential events. Just as of right now, just because we don't know how much we're going to have in total, but I think I'm pretty optimistic that things are looking good. Just to make sure that we're not going overboard. This is just purely procedural things. Other than that, I don't have any updates.
Perfect. Thank you, Patrick. Moving on to PR. Susanna, do you want to give the update?
At the moment, I don't really have any updates, but me and Ovi did work on the Instagram post of our Tulane trip. She came up with this wonderful caption. I really loved it. And at the moment, we are deciding to start working on the next academic year of how PR and marketing should be looking like. So you might see something in the next 3 weeks or in a month about guidelines, marketing calendar, social, da da da.
Got one. Uno
I got.
más.
Oh, we'll go for it.
Uno más. I'm pretty sure. I would think. I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure you're gonna. All right. Just so I'm only also using like an announcement as well. This is pending resolution. We're writing right now, right? Right, Haley? You're writing that now? Yes. Okay. So we're gonna be doing a collaborative event, a tri-institutional event for the first time this year with between MSU Denver, CU Denver. We'll pretend we're gonna wait till CU Denver till they get approval from their meeting today, and CCD for the culture clash. It's just gonna be held at the end of the month. Right now we're currently coordinating, catching up a bit because while they were organizing the event, we were in Tulane. However, we're here now. We're here now, baby. We want to get things moving. Got to see what food trucks we want. So, as you guys all part of PR committee, all counselors, if you guys have any food trucks or you guys know any AHAG things that we would need to approve, because right now we are going to be in charge of the budget-wise. We're going to be in charge of the aguas frescas, which are going to be the drinks, and for the 2 food trucks that we're going to be having rented out here. So if any of you guys have any great ideas, great suggestions, the floor is open to everybody. Thank you.
We'll also be tabling at that event, so you guys should go to the PR meeting to help figure out what we're going to do for tabling. Do you have a comment? Go for it.
It's a question, Patrick. When is the event again?
29. Yeah, pretty soon. Which is why right now we're trying to get everything moving. I mean, I think I've been in 2 meetings with them today, this week. One with Mike on board and the other one was with Haley and Susanna. So we can get things moving. I think today at the PR meeting, if we can have all hands on deck just to get, because I know everyone here is busy. We're just coming back from midterm. So we can have as much people as we can, as much help. We have a lot of great spirits here, a lot of hardworking people here, and a lot of skillful individuals here that can make this process a lot smoother.
Armando, did you have a question?
Yes, question for the PR committee. This is more business related.
The for Roadrunners after dark.
We have not yet. I was frankly hoping to see how much we have from the budget in total to recalculate how much we can give out, because I just want to have all the numbers we have so I can see what we can do, because we also have to plan for proof of finals at the end of the year, which is going to be about 6,000. So looking at the current budget, this is an estimate. We should have about $10,000 left in order for the PR budget for any other events. And with this event, at the estimation right now, it's about 3,000. So we're about 3,000 left. If I could have the exact once we have the exact numbers, which shouldn't be too long, we can finalize all our projects to see how much we can do, how much is available, how much isn't available. I think Roadrunners After Dark. When is that?
April 30th.
April 30th. I don't know.
Yeah, the next day.
Ooh. Okay. All right. If Armando, and this is just, I'm asking if you guys are you gonna be able to give me that before the PR meeting today?
We are trying to finalize all our expense reports literally right now. We've been doing this since this morning, so we can give you a better estimate for sure. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. If you could just give me like around the ballpark. I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, always over, because then if we have if we spent less and we have more,
Yeah.
you know,
No, I got you.
and then we can get that done. Yeah. If so, as you guys can all tell, please come to the PR committee today. Meeting is gonna be at 3 o'clock in the TSAC office. Delegates and counselors, please.
So then we can go ahead and move over to sustainability committee updates. I don't think we have anything that we haven't discussed already, right, Vic? We're just finalizing that. Yeah, I'm speaking. So for sustainability committee, nothing new that we haven't already discussed. However, we are finalizing that resolution for Earth Week and participating in that. So expect to see that coming out next week. We're super excited to be working with the Auraria Sustainable Campus program on that, but we will also be tabling for that. So expect to see something coming from me for a calendar invite or something based on your schedules you guys have sent out for tabling. I'll also reach out to delegates if you guys are interested in helping table at that event as well. With that, moving over to Matt and Siobhan, anything from Faculty Senate or Staff Senate?
So we haven't met yet with either of them this month, but I do plan on presenting the King Supers Awards program stuff to both of them in the coming weeks.
Next week, to be exact, that's when we're presenting.
One of them.
Oh.
Perfect. Anything else to add from that? Or that covers it. Cool. Perfect. And then moving into delegate updates. Anything coming from our delegates?
I have just like some suggestions about our TSAC. I've just come up with some ideas about like engaging students in our leadership and for our legacy to extend after this next fiscal year. So I've just come up with the idea that we can collaborate with C2 Hub, like arranging a workshop where like this meeting is happening not on Fridays, but particularly on Mondays till Thursday. We can organize a weekly meeting and show our MSU Denver students like in an interactive workshop what are we putting up and how are we running our student body. And we can take help from C2 Hub because most of the students are using Career Link, and we can add this in their Career Link as a leadership workshop, or maybe we can contact their events coordinator, sending tagging all the majors along with this advocacy and professional growth thing, so we can talk it out with if you all are interested. It's just my idea. I'm just telling you. And then, yeah, that's pretty much it. And one more thing I have to also say that I have an idea to collab with PR teams. So it's like a professional LinkedIn account for TSAC students, so they can tag in their experience and their professional working years with TSAC.
Thank you, Irvi. I would definitely come to the PR committee meeting today to talk about that. Moving on to Sky.
Yes, so earlier today I submitted a piece of legislation that did fail. I'm also working on a resolution to support changes to name change procedures. I'm working with the Information Technology Department on that, with Gita on that, and with LGBTQ Resource Center on that. Those changes won't be seen until likely December, but starting the process on those would be something we would be supporting and actively contributing towards. I want to also say that the not disagreement, the confusion on what the process is when a vote doesn't when a vote is that close. I want to work on that in the accountability committee and really solidifying what that means, getting interpretations of our constitution. I believe there's maybe parts of it that are vague, maybe parts of it that leave it open to interpretation either way. I also just got a phone call from the director of GITA who says that they support our efforts in endorsing the Kelly Loving Act and are happy we're doing it. Today was the first day she could get back to me, and she just did. So there. And I think that's all my updates.
I will definitely pass that along to Will, and obviously Matt is here as well, who worked on the Constitution process. But I do think it's also important to clarify. So I thank you for bringing that up and mentioning that. Jamani, do you have a delegate update?
It's really just for Sky, but when you're talking about the name change, what name change are you actually like talking about?
Yeah, so I'm absolutely happy to talk offline on that as well, but there's different types of name changes you can do within the university systems, within IT. So there is a display name change, which changes your name in university email. There is your net ID, which has pieces of your name, your first initial and your last name in it, changing that. And there's a legal name change where you submit name change paperwork, you submit a court order, you submit a marriage certificate, something changing your name. And how that process works and how that may not be as inclusive as we want it to be.
Okay, next thing we have is open floor announcements. Does anybody have any open floor announcements, perhaps about your experience? It doesn't have to be about that also, if you have other open floor announcements.
Well, I'll probably start with my other open floor announcement. So I sent out like a when to meet on the ad hoc committee. I got some responses, but there was 2 times that more people were available. But today on our SACAB meeting, I found out that CU Denver wouldn't be able to make it on one of those times because they have their student government meetings. So I'm going to be sending out an invite for a meeting at Thursday at 4 o'clock. And anybody is welcome to join and encouraged to, because it's not just a conversation about like our relationship with SACAB, but how can we also come together as our student governments for the broader advocacy of campus.
Thank you, Matt. Any other open floor announcements? Susanna?
Just to state, I will not be on meeting next Friday. And that's all.
Patrick?
Thanks. I'm also not going to be at the meeting next Friday. We're going to construction site. So that's it. But if I do want to enlighten for the Tulane trip that we went, which was very, very needed. It helped me a lot. I have a lot more plentiful ideas to put in for TSAC this coming year. Budget wise, trying to use Roadrunner Link, my newly friend that I got. Gonna be trying using that as much as I can, and just to make the things a little bit easier. I feel like a lot of things at Tulane is that with enough amount of support, a lot of things can be achieved. With a lot of more going within the student universe, within the university, a lot of ideas have been that we were potentially willing to explore and are interested in exploring have been presented to us, especially with the PR. I know we had a candid conversation about how we could implement some things that they already have, and try to implement it here. Budget committees just isn't too bad. But what I did like is the different committees that they did have. One of them being for all the clubs and organizations and how they collaborated that with their own university as well. Just be even having already an established committee to discussing about all the club and organizations, which is something that I was put in here as well, that I was trying to implement. That I'm working on. God willing, everything works out in my favor to keep on moving things like that. Other than that, It was a great experience. Felt a lot more motivated, regenerated, um, and I feel like us as a council also grew a lot closer as well.
I yield my time to Sky.
This is Sky first and then you.
Me? Oh God. Oh hi. I separated this from delegate updates. I just wanted to say what a good time I had in Tulane. The things I got to learn, speaking to some administrators from a different perspective, from a private school, from a school with less undergrads, and seeing their different campus environment where most people live on campus, whereas for us, almost none of our students live on campus. And I think that will absolutely influence my advocacy if I become a counselor next year.
Giovanni.
Hi guys, I just wanted to talk about a little bit more about the trip. It was actually a great experience. One thing that I kind of really took away from it is like their efforts on like how they, I guess, get more involved or get the students involved in like their efforts and stuff. And they said they do a lot of tabling, which we do tabling as well. But I feel like in order for our tabling to be a little bit more successful, we might have to do a little bit more consistent tabling, or just as well as like when we're planning our planning just like anything in TSAC really, to have more kind of a set structure. They kind of really have everything like laid out, which was really cool. It was also really interesting to see that while they are like a private school, their structure and how they run their TSAC is kind of similar to ours. One thing we also did talk about a lot was the social media and PR and how we could improve our social media. And one thing I think I want to try to do with the PR stuff is make a content calendar. Really starting with that for next semester. So like from the jump, it would be like smooth sailing with like content. I feel like that will also help grow our Instagram by posting like consistently and like stuff like that. So I just thought that was really cool.
Anybody else with any open floor announcements, updates? I also just want to say that I had a really, really good time in New Orleans and visiting Tulane. I feel like it was a really fruitful experience, and there's a lot we could take back from that. I did find it interesting how in their meetings they kind of called for a motion to be made instead of. I feel like most of the time I just end up making the motion, and I feel like that could contribute to like weird power dynamics as like a co-chair. So I thought that was interesting and something I might implement going forward. So if I'm like, is there a motion on the floor? It's just me kind of trying that out and maybe trying to pass it off so it's not always me making the motions, because I feel like that contributes to a weird power dynamic and not something specifically I want to bring back. Susanna.
I totally agree with that because it does follow under Robert's rule, order, the way they do it. Like, I make a motion to start this meeting at 8 something, whatever PM, and then someone second it. They do it more formally than we do. So maybe that's something we should probably pursue later on.
Also, a cool thing that I liked is that I'm sorry. is that as they had their preparation for their votes and how they presented it, they also had a QR code. So if anything were to be contentious, they were able to vote online unanimously, right? Anonymously.
I don't think it's anonymously. I still think they record who.
Yeah.
But I could be wrong because
Oh,
who was looking
am I
at that?
wrong? I misunderstood. Maybe.
Matt. Yes.
Tallying all the votes. Oh. Done. So Benjamin was the one actually tracking all the verbal votes on a nice spreadsheet that I'm gonna also be sharing with Brandon to see if it'll be useful for use in our council.
I yield.
Oh yeah, I was just gonna say I think that QR code is not anonymous. I don't think it would be useful for us. The reason I don't think so, I think it's because their council has so many more people. Ours only has 12, or will have 12 next year. I think that 12 people in a roll call vote isn't as tedious as 34 people in a roll call, and so it wouldn't be nearly as useful to have a QR code. probably take longer than a roll call vote would.
Any other open floor announcements, updates? Sam?
Yeah, just quick thing. I forgot other robots back. Quick thing I forgot to mention about elections is that I sent everyone the list of questions that will be asked during the town hall. I'm also going to print it out day of, but I just wanted to give you all a heads up that that should be in your email, and that's where the link to the ballot will be also is in that same email. So we have the list of questions. We're going to stick to those. We might cut a couple depending on time, but you can prep for those questions specifically. I'm not going to let them ask anything else different. We will be taking audience questions, so who knows where that'll come from, but it should be pretty chill. So just wanted to point that out to everybody. Thank you.
Any other final open floor announcements or updates before I move over to advisor updates? Kirby?
I yield.
I have a question for Sam. So do we have to answer all the questions? No. Okay.
Just you though. No, I'm just kidding. Okay. Any other last final open floor announcements, updates before we move over to advisor updates? Going once, going twice. Sold to Steven.
Good afternoon, TSAC. I wanted to share that I too had a absolutely wonderful time with you all. One of my biggest takeaways that I saw was that first day when you all came and entered the room and started meeting with members of their student government, TUA, and you all just sat around and immediately started talking to folks. Completely unprompted, unhinged. You just sat down and started meeting with folks. So truly, thank you for being willing to step out of your comfort zones and really, is there an issue?
You're welcome, Stephen.
Okay. Thanks. So yes, that was my takeaway from that. Again, just in terms of concert update, as you all decide what you want to do for the concert, do you remember that? It's just as an update. I know the first time I mentioned about funnel cake, the funnel cake company kind of fell through. So we do have cotton candy and popcorn. So that's only about, it's only about like $504. It's not a chunk of change. So we'd really love to do that as well as have folks work that. So in PR committee, if that's something you all want to discuss, please let's do that because that's coming up. I'm sorry, Susanna. ASAP, yes. As a reminder, next Friday, April 11th, Dr. Will Simpkins will be in attendance. Do you all have any specific topics or items you want me to have him prep and talk about at next week's meeting? Otherwise, I was going to have him just do general updates. Yeah.
Update on federal administration stuff.
Very good. All right. So if there are other items, please just let me know so I could forward them on. So that way we can have good conversation. He will only be there for a half hour. Typically, it goes a little longer than the 30 minutes of allotted time. But again, that's what I wanted to make sure you all knew. This month is Asian Pacific Islander Heritage Month. We already had the first two events this week. There are still more events occurring throughout the course of the month. So please look out for different events that are occurring. Delegates, two things for you. One, please make sure all delegates, and this is everyone, as you are coming up with different projects and things you want to do, please make sure you partner with a counselor to do that, okay? And you all have been doing a good job, but just as a reminder, in order to move business forward. Also related to delegates, for the council, one of the things that we didn't necessarily outline that I think would be really important to discuss for you all is the current delegates we have now. They have been very active. Do you want them to have to reapply? Or if they're still interested in staying on, can we move them forward to the next semester or next academic year? That way, they can be included in summer training.
I think that's a great idea, and we should definitely consider that moving forward. That's also how the urban leadership program works. You interview, you apply, you get in the first time, and then once you're in the program, you're in it as long as you want to be in it. So I've seen that system work well. So I like that idea. We should definitely discuss that further.
Then let me ask you this. Do you want Armando and I, since we meet with the delegates, to essentially say, hey, these delegates want to continue moving forward, and do you want there to be legislation around that, or is that something that I don't know? I'm yielding to you all. I don't know how you would want to proceed with something like that.
Yeah, so we had the delegates program came through as a resolution originally, and the goal was that if this program was successful, that it would eventually be a constitutional amendment.
Mm-hmm.
So I think regardless, there's going to need to be some sort of amendment, continued legislation for the continuance of this program. So we could just make sure to integrate that within it. But I think it would be helpful to know who exactly is interested in moving forward. If you wouldn't mind checking in when you do those.
Absolutely. And what we'll do is maybe in the next couple meetings or so, we will present a list just to you all and saying these number of folks will be interested. For the next council, there will be 3 open spots per delegate. Cool. All right. Last thing I wanted to share is I had a very interesting meeting with a student, and she was looking for some advocacy support. And I did tell her about TSAC, and she's very interested in coming to you all to talk. One of the things she shared, her name is Destiny. And with Destiny, let me pull up that information. She explained that she's a pre-health major, or she's going into health, and she's also a first-generation student. And she's had a lot of challenges trying to navigate going through the different pre-health steps to declare a major, hasn't really had a lot of strong advisement. This is their take. And so they have what they'd like to talk about is a proposal for a pre-health pathway program at MSU Denver. I don't know a lot about the academic realm here, but you all do because you all have and are students here and have taken classes. But I think the idea is to help students navigate going into different health majors. That may already exist. It may not. So I just wanted to ask you all if that would be something that you all would want me to either invite Destiny to a meeting, or is there a committee it should live with, or because it's sort of academics. And so again, this is a student who has come to me, and I want to give her some scaffolding and support and direct her in the correct place.
I wouldn't mind chatting with this student because I think it would be maybe beneficial to talk to the Health Institute, which oversees a lot of those kind of departments, to maybe start and see where it goes if they're not feeling like they're getting support from their department as well.
With the pre-health track, I know there's like the career to pathways things that the C2 Hub offers, and they do a lot of they really do a lot of health and science like workshops and stuff for that. So you could point her in that direction, because I feel like that would be, if not us, I know C2 Hub, because I feel like they're actually doing what is it called? A career fair, if I'm not mistaken, or something with
Yep.
the health science field coming
Okay.
up in April.
Thank you, Jamani. I think that's a
Of
really
course.
good point too. And I can direct this student to C2 as well.
I believe Siobhan had an unrelated question.
Yeah.
Hi, I would like to call to our attention that we have another um counselor joined, and I would like to know if we can do the resolution vote over, or is that a dead thing? That's all. Thank you.
I believe the answer to that question is no.
Yield my time to Sky.
Matt?
I think this should actually go back to the accountability committee because just from cursory looks, it's not clear in our constitution. And it does say that we utilize Robert's rules as guidelines, not as a rule book. So it might still be more of a discussion.
You did.
Patrick
Hi.
Fields.
I also looked over our constitution. I believe if a counselor makes a motion to revote, that is a welcome motion while the meeting is still in session. I also support revoting on this, given that Gita has now endorsed our efforts in this, and there's an additional voting member in the meeting now. But I think that's up to if the motion to vote passed.
Under the same guidelines that we utilize for deciding the vote for the last one, it would be 6 would be required for majority, not 5, right? So the one additional council member would not make a difference to the outcome of the vote if we stay with the same guidelines. I don't feel it's necessary then, but if somebody else wants to make the motion, you're more than welcome to.
So I had a question. You said Gita supported your
Yeah, so Gita did give, the director of Gita did give me a call, and my conversation with them was quite literally asking. They said they were actually reading through the bill that I was talking about right then, actually, because my email did talk about it. And she did say that she supported our efforts in endorsing this bill. The reason that I feel that if Siobhan calls for a revote, that it should be held is because I think the people that voted no primarily not because they did not want to advocate for trans people, primarily because we hadn't consulted some of the groups on campus that do stakehold for our trans students. And I think that even though it was just a simple phone call from the director of Gita, I think that as the director of Gita, she has a specific responsibility and that she interacts with queer students almost all day, every day. And that she has a unique experience when it comes to endorsing this bill. And I think that her supporting us in doing that might sway some of the people that already abstained. Anyway.
If you want a motion for a revote,
I, Siobhan McKinney, would like to motion a revote.
do I have a second?
I'll second.
Any? Mhm. The motion's on the floor. We still have to follow through. I'm going to do it by roll call again, but I'm just going to go around the table. Victor? Levi?
name.
Haley? Yes. Siobhan?
Yes.
Abstain.
Abstain. Matt?
Yes.
Abstained.
So the vote remains the same. So, okay. Will left. So he wasn't supposed to be here at all, so I'm not surprised he left. Okay. Anyways, any other last announcements and updates? Do you still have yours?
Yeah, we weren't done.
Cool. Cool.
We weren't done. I really just wanted to say thank you so much for the Tulane trip. I had a pleasure planning it out, and I really do hope the content was worthwhile. If you have any suggestions for anything we could have changed, please do just let me know. But one of the biggest things that I took away was that we are not really far off track. You know, our plane is flying, and since me and Barone and now Steven have been advisors for going on 4 years now with this group. I feel sometimes that we are behind, and I just know it's actually no, we're not behind. We actually are in really good shape, and I'm proud of everything TSAC has done. Grateful for this council this year for taking a lot of the legislation, governing bodies, and everything, and really just making it fine tuned. And like I said, our plane is flying, and we haven't had many hiccups, so I'm grateful for that. And yeah. Oh, actually, and one last elections update. I'm updating the website in the next hour.
This was just something that I just wanted to finish saying about the Tulane trip. If we can just give some kudos to Armando for helping plan the curriculum for it. Armando worked tirelessly with, oh my gosh, what's KP to help put this together. I was brought in later on, but really Armando designed everything. So major kudos to Armando for giving us that 3-day intent. And
And
then,
thank you, Stephen, for booking all the random flights
oh,
from the last minute travelers.
yes, we're dealing with that right now. Thank you all. But I'm glad you all had a wonderful trip. We yield to Dr. Barone. Any updates?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. No, I just wanted to echo everyone's gratitude here for just the good work that not work, the good service that in leadership that you all have displayed this year, and just everything that you all have brought to the council, the enthusiasm, the energy, the positive collaborative nature of working together and being respectful and being really student-centered in everything you're doing. I just, like Armando said, we've been doing this for several years now, and sometimes it's hard to know, how we're moving forward. And it's just really reaffirming to hear that you all not only had a really positive experience in New Orleans, but that you were validated in terms of the work that you're doing and your ability to really advocate for students. So I just really want to say thank you to Stephen and Armando and all of you for just everything that you've displayed this past year. And I'm just really excited for elections and hoping that everyone gets people to vote. We've got to do better in terms of our numbers. That's the one goal that I'd like to set for us. And I'm sure Armando has it too, and Steven, but our voter turnout and Sam hasn't been too great. And so if there's a way that we can really make sure that y'all are campaigning, and even if you're not running, making sure that students are voting because their voices do matter. And just really wanting to engage students in meaningful ways. And so I think you all have really done that. I also want to say that our your reputation on campus, not only with students, but with staff, faculty, other shared governance structures, everyone just has such unsolicited positive feedback to say about all of you. So I really appreciate that, and just really proud of you all. That's all I got. And I'm glad you all had a great time and that everyone came back safely.
Passing it back over to Armando.
Yes, Sam and I, as the elections team, we just want to let you all know our goal this year is 400 votes. Reality, it's 5. 400 means reality, it's 5. Is mean it better be 5. 400 means that just requires each of you as counselors to get 40 people. All we need is 40 people to vote. You can get that within all of your classes. Can I get a head now that we're all going to do that? And that's not counting delegates. Delegates, I'll say 20. I need y'all to get 20 folks to vote. Yes.
You definitely know 40 people, and you're definitely going to do it.
All right.
All right. Any last announcements and updates? Motion to end the meeting.
Second.
Any
Second
objections?
that motion, no.
Any abstentions? Bye, y'all. Have a great weekend.